Welcome everyone to Escape Your Ellie podcast with Justine
and Geneva. Settle in, folks. We are thrilled. We are joined by maybe one of the most exciting guests we've had. We're just so thrilled to talk to you, Gary Janetti. How are you?
I'm sorry if I'm the most exciting guest we've had.
The pressure.
I need to apologize.
We're so happy.
We're pumped to talk to you. We are discussing your new book, which we're going to get into, but tell everybody where they can order your book, about your book, before we start asking you all the questions.
Sure. Well, my new book is Start Without Me, and I guess you can order it on Amazon. I guess that's where people order it, or wherever. And independent bookseller, they'll come for me no matter what I say. So. Yes.
Oh right, yeah.
A bookstore.
Meg Ryan from She's Got Mail is gonna come after you.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, everyone should buy it though. It was exhilarating.
It was so good.
Fun. I was riding around with my family in the car reading it, and my husband was getting turned on. He's like, "Oh, I love you reading a book." And this is really turning me on. So
thanks, Justine. And you don't get car sick reading in the car?
I didn't, but usually I do get car sick. That's really interesting. It's like you were my medicine.
Yeah. Okay. Good. I'm glad.
I love that. So we're gonna start with, because we know you're in the pop culture sphere like we are. What are you currently watching on TV? We're gonna talk about your relationship with television, because I feel like you talk about that in the book. But what are you watching right now that you love?
Just all around anything TV.
Yeah, if you were gonna tell
okay, well,
three shows.
I will say I have very high-low tastes. I'm everywhere. My comedy high-low, everything. Fashion is high-low. It's all a hodgepodge. So I'm watching My Brilliant Friend on HBO now, which is, if you know the Elena Ferrante novels that they're based on, this is the third series in it. It's the most incredible show on television. It's extraordinary. So I'm obsessed with that. Alongside, I'll watch that, and then The Real Housewives of New Jersey. So, equally.
See, that's a perfect blend.
So I'm loving this season of Jersey. I'm watching, all the Housewives. I've been watching The Tourist with Jamie Dornan on HBO Max, if I could recommend. It's really terrific. So
I have to check that out. I keep seeing it on the carousel, but I haven't pressed play yet.
Yeah.
Are you jealous of Louis Tan?
Give it a go.
Oh, sorry. Are you jealous of Louis Tan on Real Housewives of New Jersey?
Those tans, even there's a chapter in my book.
That's why I'm bringing it up. Yeah.
On Amazon and sellers, that is about being tan and being obsessed with being tan. And I still, as tan as I got, I don't know if I ever got as tan as Dolores Catania.
Oh, she has a great tan.
Yeah. I don't know what she does, but I definitely been at that level, but I don't know if I have to, hats off to her. Yeah.
Okay, so we were going to ask you your Housewives Mount Rushmore, your foundational 4 housewives that are key to the franchise. Since you said Jersey, is Teresa on your Mount Rushmore?
Oh, no, yes.
They don't have to be your favorite.
It has to be so the way we think of it is the people who built, they may not be your personal favorite, but they've built the franchise.
Okay. Well, then people get all because of Vicki Gunvalson and the OG thing. I'm I don't subscribe to that. I was here, I'm you're annoying. That 14 years is enough. In what universe are you famous for 14 years? How much more time could you be given? So it shouldn't be a thing that has no statute of limitations. So I would put, but Teresa Giudice, she, yes, there's nobody who can kind of touch her as far as the trajectory of her story. Lisa Rinna, I would put up there, because I think once she came on to Beverly Hills, she kind of switched it all up, and she managed to be provocative and funny and not take herself seriously. She's a dear friend, so I adore her. So she's definitely up there. Bethany, for God's sakes, you can't not put Bethany.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And I think I would also pick Candy.
She's moved up on our list.
Yeah. We initially, our first round, she wasn't there, and then when we realized she is the Atlanta franchise.
I think so too. I think she I love Candy. I just love her because she's just I feel she's the one I watch, and I'm I would get along with Candy. If I were on the show, Candy would be
she'd be your person.
I gravitate.
Okay. She's showing good longevity.
Yeah,
you want her around. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, if you were VP of programming at Bravo, what's one show you would create that they haven't done?
Oh, what's one show that I create that they haven't done?
Like, is there something that you're like, this would be a great reality TV show that's like
do Gay Housewives?
Yeah, which there should be,
good.
Right? Yeah.
But I mean, it's kind of redundant because the Housewives is Gay Housewives, so it's a little. They are gay men basically, so it's a little tricky. So I might not, but it might be like bananas on bananas. Do you know that expression? Like a joke on a joke. Too much of a good thing.
It'd be worth trying. I'd be down.
I think it would be glorious. Okay, do you enjoy, last Housewives related question, do you like watching the franchises where women like Lisa Rinna and you can kind of like you know more about the background, or do you like maybe the franchises where no one and you're like a true viewer?
Well, I mean, it's not like I can separate myself. It's not like, so it doesn't really factor in. I enjoy most all of them. The only one I never saw an episode of was Dallas.
Wow, never saw an episode. First couple seasons were okay.
Yeah, when you don't watch it though, they don't exist. So you don't know. They'll show up somewhere, and I'm like, who? It's like the person in the supermarket next to you. Like they're not actually anybody. But I watched 1 or 2 episodes or something. It's suddenly like, oh my God, it's Dorit. But if you haven't watched the show, it's like, so what? Right. Like they don't exist to me.
I have one more question. Which you talk about your mom a lot in the book. Which housewife would you say is the closest to your mom in a loving way?
Oh, that's funny. Well, I'd have to go with New Jersey as, first of all, the franchise, because I'm Italian American, so that's like when they speak my language. I would say Dolores.
Nice.
Oh, love that. Dolores is one of our favorite housewives. She's like a powerhouse.
Yeah, me too. I love Dolores.
It would have been nice if she'd been on originally, like planned. It is weird.
Yeah, but maybe we needed her now.
Maybe it's good. Yeah. She would have shown us too much.
Perspective.
Yeah.
This question is out of left field, but Justine is a freak, and so we have to ask it, which is, how many pillows do you sleep with at night?
Oh, that's so weird. You would ask me that question.
I know.
Because it's like such an obsession of mine. It
is?
And it's a thing I think about almost every single night.
I love this.
And I alternate throughout the night between 1 and 2. It depends.
1 and 2.
I switch positions. I throw one has to go on the floor to get refluffed again, and then I swap them out. So because when my head is squashed, the one too much, I have to ditch it and then get the one that I put on the floor back.
So it's really only one.
What?
It's really only one that you're sleeping with.
But yeah, that's what I'm doing. And then sometimes there's both of them if I'm on my back. With 2 pillows.
Oh my God! I told you we're soulmates. Yeah.
It's weird. Nobody's never asked me that. It's something
that's hilarious. I love that.
Sleeps with a ton. Yeah.
I'm like a 3-pillower. I need like I need a behind the pillow. I need a pillow, and then I need like a mobile pillow.
I could do 3 pillows if I'm like,
sick.
If someone was bringing me a tray and I was sick, I had to take soup in bed. Like, maybe then.
My sister-in-law sleeps with 0 pillows. She does not have a single, like a corpse.
That sounds like a sociopath.
That's what I said. She sounds like a serial killer.
That's like a vampire sleeps with his
very odd.
A strong neck.
It seems like such a bizarre move, like an adult with choice.
It's so with no pillow. That could be the most disturbing thing I've ever heard.
I know. That's how I feel. I think this is an important question to assess, like if a person is like normal functioning, where are they at?
I'm just picturing you in bed, like in the middle of the night, rotating these pillows, cracking me up.
Yeah, it is. I'm on my back, 2 pillows. If I'm gonna move on my side, 1 goes out on the floor. Then it's like depending on, because there have to be down pillows. I can't sleep with a foam pillow because it doesn't.
Yeah,
it's a weird thing. But then the down pillows squish. They have to be the right weight. It has to be like a heavier down. If they're too thin, it's like then you become like your sister-in-law, and it's like nothing.
Yes,
I have to say, last thing on pillows. This is against what me and Geneva. Everybody hates this guy, but I love the My Pillow. The My Pillow.
The Trump pillow.
Oh, I'm not well versed in him.
But I love the pillow. If you ever can try one, it is a great pillow, and it really pushes together good. So
yes, I know the pillow guy. Okay, but if the pillow
that violates my moral code.
Yeah,
I tried the pillows when I've ordered it. It's supposed to help you kind of, if you're sleeping on your side, so you don't have any kind of thing. But then they come and it's like, okay, I have one that's like, it was 3 pieces you had to put together, and
it's too much.
Like a pregnancy pillow. No one needs that.
No, yeah.
Okay, we're gonna get into the book. We absolutely loved it. What's your creative process like when you write a book? Like, did you have an idea of what you wanted to do, or are you kind of just like writing things and putting them together? Like, how did you create your book?
It wasn't nothing that formal. There were just some ideas that I had of some things that had happened to me throughout my life. And, you get to a certain age, maybe if I wrote this book 20 years ago, well, obviously it would have been completely different, but you realize you remember things have stuck with you that you didn't necessarily think would ever stick with you, things you still kind of randomly think about. So these are mostly things throughout my childhood and very young adulthood that I still kind of moments that are still kind of alive in me. So I kind of jotted down what these moments were, and then I kind of wrote about each moment, basically.
It's amazing.
It was so fun to read.
I could remember.
I know. I feel like, do you have a good memory? Like, do you keep diaries? Like, how do you remember this?
No, I don't keep any diaries. Well, no, but the nice thing too is, it's a memoir. So a memoir, it's my memory, right? So I don't have to worry about being like, it doesn't have to be perfect. Like, there are things in it that I'm sure somebody might say this year it wasn't this or that, this, or it didn't happen quite like this, but it's how I remember it.
Yeah.
It's not, it's not a historical,
Right. The chapter on destination weddings, I thought was like literally spot on. It was hilarious. And then I love that it culminated in that you actually had a destination wedding. Was that a joint decision between you and Brad? Were you forced into a destination wedding?
I still stand by. First of all, I hate destination weddings. I think it's the most presumptuous. I'm going to one in May, and I'm looking forward to it. So, Chris, if you're listening, yours isn't.
Don't read the book. I want my piece of chicken.
I don't have to get on a plane, so I'm okay. But it's mine was. We did have a destination wedding, but it was only like for 9 people. It was just both of our closest families. So that is my caveat, that I didn't invite 100 people where they had to actually come on this cruise with us.
Are you a cruise person? Well, post COVID, I'm imagining you're not.
I haven't been post COVID, but I would again. I'm very much like.
Okay.
Yeah, I can forget like the past 2 years like that.
Do you think that you have an affinity for cruises because it sounds like you grew up going on cruises because of your dad?
Yeah, exactly. We went because my dad, I write about in my other book too. Do you mind if I cancel the book I wrote a few years ago? Before this one, I also talk about my dad worked as a sales manager for a Cunard cruise line. And this was before, cruise, this was even just a little bit even before the Love Boat. I started going on them from when I was 1. Like my first memory is on a cruise ship. So we used to go all the time, like like a couple of times a year, and I was obsessed with them.
You're cracking me up with Alaska. That's all I've been thinking about is how you talk about the baked Alaska coming through.
Baked Alaska. Oh God, still. My heart's
that's a dessert of past. I feel like baked Alaska. Oh, this was going to be one of our questions, so I'll just ask it because baked Alaska is a perfect preference. I feel like that appears on a lot of people's death row meals. Do you have a death row meal, your last meal on earth, what you would eat?
I don't. I had never been asked that, but it would be pasta. It would be nice. It would be a nice. I would hope it would be a nice plate of homemade pasta with a nice sauce. Yeah,
that's a good
nice
choice.
Grated cheese on it, some piece of Italian bread with it to dip in.
Your mom said no dipping, though. You're not allowed to
dip. That's why I'm gonna do it on my last meal.
If you were going on Below Deck.
Yes. Oh my God. Okay.
Let's talk about do you have a dream cast? Do you have requirements? Are you doing a beach picnic?
I love
what does it look
Below
like for you?
I also I would never. First of all, I after watching it for a year, you both watch, right?
Yes.
Okay. So they always go for 2 nights. It's 2 days. It's 2 days and 2 nights, and they have to give in order to give a good tip, it's also like $25,000 for 2 days.
Yes.
It's $12,000 a day. And they're always scrambling. Like if you want a drink, you're not going to get it fast, you know, like it's, it'd be easier to go to the Four Seasons, you know, and the boat doesn't go anywhere. So I don't know why you're going on a boat. It literally, it leaves, you know, you don't realize it the first year you're watching because you're caught up. So then I started breaking it down. I'm like, watch where they go. Let's keep track of the day count. Sometimes it's one night they're gone for. They sail for maybe an hour. They just anchor out like an hour away from the dock. Then they have to put that fucking slide up, and they go and maybe they schlep everything to a rock for a picnic. It's so much nicer on the boat.
The horrible picnic. Yeah.
There's so much schlepping and washing and they don't leave land because you're not even using the boat. You don't go anywhere. You're not actually sailing. You're just sitting on it. So it drives me, and then you have to give $25,000. But I'd want to be on. I'd want to be working. Like I wish I could be. I want to be one of the stews on it. Like I want to do a season of the show. That's what I would love to do if I could get cast.
Interesting.
I don't want to be. Why
are you a service person? Like you
I'm
like
from
service people?
Well, I let's just say it's a language I speak. I worked in the service industry for many years. So when I watch the show, I identify with the staff. I don't with the crew rather. I don't identify with the guests who are like I'm not a person who's comfortable like, you know, asking like complaining about why, you know, my eggs have potatoes when on my list I said I don't like potatoes, and now I'm going to punish the rest of the people on the charter by going back to my cabin and ruining the meal. That's going to basically you have to pay $12,000 in tips for the eggs. So no, I'm more the person who's bitching about those people who's like what was his name on the last one? The British gay guy who I loved.
God, I can't think of his name. He was great though.
I was just looking at him. He's so cute.
I know. He was great. He had the crush on
Fraser.
Fraser.
Oh, good
not
job.
Fraser. Fraser. I love Fraser.
Fraser. Yes, Fraser.
I think he should be a chief
He's
stew.
Adorable.
He's got to be. They have to have him come back and be chief stew. He's great. He was fun, but that's me. Like I want to be on that. I would be like, I want to. I'd like to do, even though I'm, you know, over 50. I still want to be like I'd be the second stew. By the way, I want to. You have to be the second to be able to bitch about everybody. If you're the chief stew,
that's true.
You know, you can't. You can never bitch about everybody. So I work well if I'm in a position where I can complain about everybody and say how much better I would do everything. So I think.
And then you still have over the third stew. You're still a little bit higher.
Yes, that's somebody you can lord everything over, you know, and then somebody you can complain with, or then move, you know, depending. It's a very.
Hannah's such a bitch today. Yeah, you need that. Yes,
I love that.
I know. I was a waitress too. It's like I didn't know this was an option. I would have been out traveling the world serving on a stupid yacht instead of Carrabba's.
I've been on a Bravo show too.
I know.
Carrabba's.
We always say that. Where's the staff? Can't you get a couple more stews up in here? It takes forever. It's ridiculous.
Who was it the other season when they let somebody go and she didn't want to bring on a third?
That was
the
ridiculous.
woman who went through quarantine already. She was there for a day. She was she did laundry and she was like, no thanks, I don't want her. It's like, why not?
Ridiculous. I thought the same thing.
That annoyed me. I was like, you're gonna lose me.
Yep. So we loved in your book, you talk about like your relationship with television. It obviously sounds like you still watch a lot of TV. Like it seemed like TV was really fundamental to like your upbringing and just helping you like expand your world. Yeah. What's your relationship like with television now?
Good. Strong. You know, well, there's a lot of good TV on now too. We have so many shows, and then during COVID, it really gave us a chance to kind of like really go into watch series that we hadn't watched. It was, you know, like a full-time job. But TV, you know, it saved me when I was a kid. There wasn't as much, obviously, as there is now, you know, and but what there was, I consumed all the time. I watched it all the time. The only time we weren't allowed to watch TV is we didn't have it, we didn't eat it at mealtime. We weren't animals. So there was no TV for dinner. We all ate in the kitchen, had dinner, but dinner lasted, 20 minutes max.
And then you were back.
That was one show. There was one time slot, 6:30 to 7, that was like a question mark, but otherwise I was completely, from the time I woke up till the time I went to bed, the only thing, school like got in the way of it. But yeah, it was a gift. They were my friends, everybody on television, and what it did, which inadvertently I didn't even realize, when I moved to LA in my late 20s, and I wanted to write for TV and I wanted to write for sitcoms. I actually saw for the first time an actual sitcom script and what it looked like, and I was like, I could do that. I think I can do that. And I started writing them, and I was good at it because I didn't realize, but I had been training myself for I'd been in training. It's like it's like an athlete, it's like, I suddenly was like,
your 10,000 hours. Yeah.
Yeah, it was completely my 10,000 hours, more than 10,000. That's the Malcolm Gladwell. You become an expert if you, the more you do something. Obviously, it's, practice makes perfect. And he wrote a best-selling book that's basically that aphorism, but it makes sense. So I didn't realize though that I'd kind of been, my mind kind of worked like it. I don't know. It was a little bit of the chicken and the egg. I don't know if that kind of trained my mind that way, or my mind kind of already works that way, and it kind of sucked that in, because who knows? But it was definitely watching TV. Had I not spent an entire life watching TV every day, I wouldn't have.
Yeah.
What's
your favorite
written for television?
What's your favorite television project that you've worked on? Like the most fun you had?
Well, I've worked on Family Guy since the first episode, which is now, over 20 years ago. And I've been back and forth to the show many times. I come and go. I'm there for a few years, I leave for a few years, I come back, so it's been nice to have that kind of relationship with a show that I love. So I think, the people that work there, I have friends there that, I've had for 20 years, and I love the show. I think it's inventive and funny, and it's kind of expanded, how I even, thought about what could be funny, and how you can kind of, mix this, as I said before, high and low, real slapstick comedy with things that are a bit more cerebral. Like it plays with every form of comedy, and the voice acting. I mean, Seth and Alex Borstein, are genius. The writers are wonderful.
So good.
I laugh a lot when I'm there. So that show, I think, has taken up the biggest.
When I watch it, I'm like, how did they get it? It's so genius how they get away. You guys get away with the stuff you put on there. It's so funny and fresh, and
I feel like now it would be tricky, much more tricky to pull off.
Do you remember the first joke that you, or really, do you remember your first writing job that you really remember? You saw it on TV. Is it kind of like an addiction? Sure. You're like, oh my God, it got on.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, of course. I mean, I remember the first, when I moved to LA, I was 28, and I was like, I said, I had a goal. Like, I wanted to see my name on TV by the time in a year, I didn't know. I moved here in massive debt, and I was a bellman, and New York was my last job. I didn't know anybody in LA, but I was just determined. I was like, it's now or never. I became possessed, and I just became laser focused that this had to happen. And I ended up, through a series of some lucky events and other things, getting a job in my first year that I lived here on a sitcom with Taya Leone called The Naked Truth. And then I wrote an episode for it, and it aired. I believe it aired almost exactly 1 week before I moved to LA.
Wow.
And I'm not that kind of person who's like, these things happen. No, but it was like within a week, if not even closer than that my name was on TV. And it was only after the fact that I realized what an unrealistic goal that I set. Like, that's crazy, because I was like, I made it. I did it. And then I'm in. And then after that show ended, I was like, oh my God, I have to find another job. Like, what do you mean?
This is like a career I have to pursue.
It all started again. I was like, but I did that thing. Where was the like, so, but yes, that was my first.
That's great.
Oh, that's
awesome. Okay. Another book question. this is like, I can't believe that you didn't read this. How did you never read the letter from Nancy?
Did I not read it? I know there's an essay in this that I have a pen pal that I meet on a cruise ship when I'm a 16-year-old boy, and she's a married woman in her mid to late 20s. And then when I'm in college as a senior, I go visit her, as we've been pen pals all these years, and I go visit her in Long Beach, California. I'd never been to California before. I got on a plane by myself. I was 20 or 21 or something. And I went to stay, and she, at this point, had a child, very unhappy, was planning to leave her husband while I was there, and it was very uncomfortable. And I know, and it was, it was very uncomfortable for me. I was terrified. Of course, at this time, there was no cell phone. I couldn't text anybody. I couldn't Google flights.
No, you didn't have an SOS.
No, there was nothing. Right. I literally was trapped until my flight, I had a paper ticket like an animal.
It's a nightmare.
Like a paper ticket in the bag. I would have to go to
Disneyland with her.
I went to Disneyland. And then, I left, and it was this very strange, weird thing. And she wrote me something very weird happens, and it's in the book. You'll see. But when she writes me one more letter, and it's a very, very thick envelope that I get several weeks after I get back home to New York. Yes. But I don't open it.
Never.
And you're asking, how did I not open this letter? I never opened it, and I eventually threw it away. But many years later, it was stayed in a kid's room, it was that thing in in a drawer somewhere. But it was so disturbing to me. I kind of didn't want to know. I wasn't in a place. I think I was so young, and I had been an adult for a minute. I'd been barely out. I was out of the closet. I was on my way out. I had enough shit to deal with in my own life, and it. I don't know. It felt like, if I knew, then maybe I would have had to respond. Right. I just didn't want to. I was disturbed by what had happened.
It is disturbing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I didn't want to know. I didn't. I'm pretty good at not
just letting it lie.
I always feel careful what you wish for. There's a bit of I subscribe to, don't ask a question if you don't want to know the answer,
Okay. Yes.
Really,
that's my husband. He always gets
look on me. I'm don't ask me that, please.
You don't want to know.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. I just found it fascinating that you have.
So it ends. Yeah. I have this. I get this letter.
You're somebody if the door closes, the door is closed, if you will, to quote Nene Leakes. You're not opening it again.
Every instance is different. I also believe, it just felt like something I didn't want to know. I don't know.
Yeah. No, that was, that story was, as I was reading it, I could just feel
hilarious.
Comfortableness, especially when you just think about the time, like you said, the day where you don't have a cell phone, and you have to rely on a random person picking you up at the airport and hoping you're making it there. It was just such a different time in terms of time.
And also maybe now also in writing it and reflecting on it, because you asked me earlier, I think, Justine, to the process, what it is or whatever, but I'm all I can say is I never opened the letter, right? So therefore, I never forgot that. It became a thing I never forgot. Maybe if I opened the letter, I would have forgotten it or something. But because it was this thing, so that not having opened that letter was kind of the key to remember the whole thing before it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I follow this is unrelated, but I follow your Prince George Instagram account, and I just love it. What's your relationship with the Brits now? Do British people find it funny, or are they offended? How does that look for you, particularly since you had the show as well that you developed?
Well, I was just, so strangely that you would ask, Geneva, I was just there for the first time since before COVID. And I was literally God, are they going to let me in? Because they were not happy about the show. They very much were unhappy about it. But Brits in general very much like it and get the satire of it and enjoy it. You'd have the people who are, they call them royalists, and royalists are, who were super into that. I guess maybe find it less amusing, but in general, Brits have a really good sense of humor, and they have they liked me. They seem to like me. So
okay, good.
And they get it, and and they get how it's intended and stuff.
And how do you create that idea? Like, is something that just came to you, or something you like? How did you decide to start doing that? Because it's so random, but it's so hilarious.
Yeah, it started a long time ago. I don't really do it that much anymore. It's mixed in with a bunch of other kinds of stuff that I do. But it just happened. I saw a photo of Prince George where he was super expressive, and it was like his first day of school, and he was giving such attitude. I thought, I'm going to write a caption, to this photo and give him a little, personality. And I thought it was just going to be one. And then eventually, a couple of weeks later, I was like, I wonder if I could do a second one, so it built from that. And then more and more people kind of started responding. And then I started developing the world further and further out. And then it became like, it became like, oh God, I have to keep topping myself, which gets
right. I don't,
like hard. But it just happened,
just
randomly. I just happened to see a photo that I thought was funny, and I thought I'd give it an attitude.
I had a thought that like the royal family and everyone goes down in a plane crash, and George shows up at your house and you have to take care of him as like a movie. I thought that'd be funny just for myself.
He's the next, he's the next of kin. Oh God,
that's hilarious.
Raising George.
Raising George. You've been in Hollywood now for most of your adult life.
Yeah, I've been here for a long time. Yeah, since I'm 28.
What's your favorite part of Hollywood, and what, as you've gotten older, are you tired of?
Okay, that's good questions. You ask good questions. The pillow is number one, by the way. I'm obsessed that you asked me that. I can't even tell you how much how happy that made me. The thing that I love is so trite, the weather. Like, I love the weather. I love being outside. I love, being a New Yorker. I'm still like, I go home still, and my head's, I go back frequently. So people are always like, do you miss it? I'm like, I've been there for 25 years. Please stop asking me if I miss New York. Like it's fine. I'm here. I come 4 times a year. It's like, what am I going to miss? It's not like I've been here in 25 years, but it's like the energy is always like, that kind of like everything you do, you got a brunch. It's like, we have to get there at 9 a.m., put our name down, take the buzzer, go away, come back. Where do you want to? I'm like, I don't care. Like, I don't care enough to participate. Like, it gets me. So I like the LA has the kind of the pace is just much more chill. Like, nobody cares if you could move to LA today and you're an Angelino. Nobody is like, prove to me you're an Angelino. It's not like New York or San Francisco. It's nobody cares. It's like, okay, like, you want to be, you left, you're here, whatever. So I love that. I am sick of, though, the thing that, like, I just can't be bothered. It's like, also people looking past you if you're at a party or something, or always looking to see who's coming in the room. It's very LA. I mean, it happens, in other places too, but they're particularly good at in LA, and everybody wanting to know what you're doing now. Like, what am I? We have to talk about what I'm doing now. Like, how about, can we just talk about something else? I don't want to know what you're doing now. Let's just can we just
always like the industry talk.
Can we not talk about that kind of stuff, but everybody has that, it's always like right at the forefront. I feel like at everybody's minds. Like, how
did you feel about what happened at the Oscars? Was that one of the craziest things you've ever seen in Hollywood?
Do you know what? I feel like at this point, nobody needs my 2 cents on that. Okay. Every single person in the world has weighed in. I'll bow out on that.
Okay. All right. I like that.
I'd like to know what your mom thinks, though.
Yes, your mother. What's your relationship with? Oh, she didn't watch it? I love that.
Yeah, she didn't watch it. They're on late.
Does your mother still not give you gifts, or does she?
No, she still doesn't give me gifts.
I love it.
Yeah, there's another chapter. I don't lie. Like, things that I said, like, it's very like, I mean, it's not like, I don't exaggerate either. It's that my mother, when I'm 16 years old, I wanted a leather jacket, and the leather jacket I got was so hideous. It was not what I pictured in my head. And I wanted to return it, but I was like, from the leather warehouse. You couldn't return it or something. Maybe it was on sale. I don't know, but I was stuck with it. And I never wore it. And my mother said, I'm never buying you a gift again. And she didn't.
And
I love it.
does she buy
Never
other
bought
people
me.
gifts?
Not really, maybe, yeah, like,
Okay.
her grandchildren and things like that. But no, yeah, she gets, gift certificates, checks, things like that. But an actual buying a gift, she has not bought me a gift since then.
I have 3 boys. Geneva has a son. And so when I'm reading the book, it's kind of like your mom becomes the star of the book. Is that just how it happened? She's just a big part of your life? I thought it was really sweet. I hope that my kids would be writing stories.
That's really
about
nice that you would say that, because nobody, I mean, it hasn't been out in the world that long too. And so I hadn't even thought that. I just kind of wrote, what I was, feeling about each topic that I was going through. But the people that are in it from my life and my earlier life and my family, for the most part, my attitude is when I'm writing it is like, I'd like to celebrate them. I'd like to celebrate the people that were there. That's me. Everybody has their own way. I don't need to excavate pain and put that pain might not be the right word, but something very personal.
Right.
That's somebody else's story. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's not mine necessarily. So that's a tricky thing sometimes when you're writing about family and friends and people that are in your life. How do you do it in a way where you're being completely authentic to yourself and honest? And at the same time, for me, I just wanted, I wanted people, the way I told it, I wanted people to kind of see these people as I did.
Yeah, I appreciated like the tone that you took of like, it was fun and it was funny and you felt like you really got a sense of you, but you also did talk about some stuff that like, wasn't the most light, like fun stuff, but the way that you framed it, I think really showed, I don't know, how you write and kind of the tone you were trying to set was it was fun. Like it was an easy, I really enjoyed reading it compared to like reading somebody's memoir, like you said, filled with trauma. And like, that's for another day. I just appreciated that it was like,
it really
you were still working through things, but yeah.
I teared up at the grandma story about how you learned about her and how you felt like she would be on your team and Irene. I've been thinking about Irene and I'm like, oh, and even though you handled it,
if you had another kid, you would name them Irene.
I loved it. I loved Irene, very much. She was my next door neighbor growing up. I always think, and she was a second mother to me. And I miss her and I think about her often. And the irony is too, I think, because I don't want to talk to my neighbors. I don't really want to have anything to do. I'm very private. I feel like once you open that door, then, you might be chatty one day and then you're in trouble. I don't want to go out to dinner with I don't want to, I'll say good morning, but that's it. But the irony is, the closest people in our lives were our next door neighbors for and my parents up until they died and moved away. But so it's like 40 years, it's a really long time. And this woman was in my life, my entire life up until I was in my 40s. So I'm like, oh, this is this weird kind of thing of like, I can't. So it's like, maybe it's like, I don't need, part of me also feels like I don't need to do it. Like I'll never have another Irene. So I don't need to ever talk to a neighbor again,
I love that, one and done. That's it.
I can't top it. But it is, you wonder sometimes too, there are things you mentioned about, like, I wonder, when especially people know me from Instagram or from Family Guy or Will and Grace, and it's like, the expectation is you're always going to be funny. And there are things that just aren't, it's not funny, and it's like, I had to find a way to allow myself to be like, hey, this couple of pages might not be funny. And let's hope that you've earned enough kind of goodwill, as it were, with, your audience, that you'll be able to go a little someplace else together too. Do you know what I mean? But it was hard. Sometimes I would be like, oh my God, I just wrote 4 pages and there's nothing funny on them. It's like,
I think you struck a really good balance. Yeah.
You really
it was
painted a good picture felt like, of who these people were.
Yeah, I think like I was warm leaving reading the book. Like it left me with like a warm, comforting feeling about like, I feel like yourself and how to talk about your past experiences and really painted a great picture. So I really enjoyed it.
Thanks, Geneva.
Where did you get your sense of humor? Like, is somebody in your family hilarious?
No. Everybody has a sense of humor. I think sometimes people, confuse having a sense of humor with being funny. One can have a sense of humor. They don't necessarily have to be funny. I think everybody in my family, we have a sense of humor. I barely think, look, I make my living at it. And I'm like, I've never described myself as funny. If somebody else does, I'm like, lower the expectations. It should be a surprise if something funny comes out, but nobody should be waiting for it. I'm sure there's so many people who've met me and have been like, I'm funnier than he is, like I'm not that funny.
I don't
I'm
think
like,
so.
You're funny occasionally. But I think it was developed. I don't know. I always was an outsider, so I was always watching things. So when you're always watching behavior, you kind of look at things a little bit differently, and I was just studying people a lot. It wasn't like I was super chatty all the time, trying out my material. And Gary's hilarious. He's going to entertain. Usually those kids aren't funny, I don't, to me.
At the bar at 3
No, I feel like a
p.m.
lot of people in
without
comedy
windows
have like people in comedy have a similar story where they like either felt a little outside or a little different, and like that. I think observation provides so much insight on the world.
Yeah, I didn't grow up thinking I was funny. I certainly wasn't told you're fun. Like nobody was kind of like, Gary's gonna, but I was developing, I think it was a mixture, I was always drawn to comedy and I watched a tremendous amount of it on television and film. And I loved all kinds of it, from the Flintstones to I Love Lucy to old Preston Sturges movies to All About Eve. I kind of absorbed Saturday Night Live from the first season it was on. So you kind of absorb that, and from the way I kind of looked at the world was specific. I guess so.
It was shaped by those experiences.
I think so.
And like
very intelligent. I know you want to pour on the compliments, but you are very intelligent.
You can. They haven't been pouring on today, so
you'll take it.
You're the first people I've talked to.
Oh, great! We love it.
But thank you. I don't know about that.
You're so sharp.
No,
we can imagine as a kid. That's why maybe adults enjoy talking to you because you are smarter than the average dumb little kid.
Maybe
we talk to children all the time, so for you and Brad in your relationship, did you learn like how to have a successful relationship from your parents and your family? Like how have you figured out how to navigate a relationship, particularly when you guys are in the public eye? Like how have you figured that out?
I don't think I learned it per se. No, I had made a lot of mistakes before Brad. I just liked him enough to know that, okay, this if it's going to happen, it's going to happen now. If it's going to happen right, if this is the person it's going to happen with, because he was the first person I felt like I was completely myself with. And sometimes you don't realize you haven't been yourself until you're with somebody when you can literally just be yourself. I'm like, I'm not playing a part at all anymore. I don't know why I do that sometimes. I think it's natural. We sometimes, do that. So it's also, Brad and I get along really well. Like we've never fought much in 21 years, to the truth. I mean, there's been maybe a couple of big ones, but I mean, like we just get along. We're well suited to each other. We laugh every day. We enjoy each other's company. And also the public eye stuff, Brad wasn't in the public eye for a long time until we'd been together. I think he started on the Rachel Zoe project the first time he then got on a show, which I never thought was going to be anything. I remember he showed me, I don't know if you remember that show where he was.
We watched it.
And before the show came out, at that time he was, I guess, 30. So it was like 14 years ago. And so we'd been together 7 years already. And I saw the pilot episode, which was on like a DVD. Before, like the week before it aired, we watched it at home and I was like, oh my, like, I don't know who is going to watch this. I'm like, I was like, you look cute. I was like, but this is like, I was like, oh, God, I don't know what this is. But so we had already been together so long. And then he became the breakout person on the show. And it was like, it was so fun. I was so happy to see him have, start getting the kind of recognition that I felt like he deserved, because, I had been the one who had, and I put successful in quotes because, a successful career, I define successful is a very broad way to define that. But I'd been working in TV for years and stuff. And then he was getting, people were seeing him, and it's never fun for somebody to feel like they're every Will and Grace event you have to go to. I'm like, you remember Brad? You remember Brad? You remember Brad? And I'm like, ugh, like poor, like that's like not a fun role to be in for anybody, to be that to feel like you're the kind of a thing. So the irony is then eventually became, you remember Gary? So I was like, oh, I don't like this.
Tables turned.
I always felt, but when we watched him at a young age, it grow throughout these years. I feel like we know him too, and I feel proud of him as he's become such a powerhouse. It's impressive.
He's also, anybody who knows him, I don't think anybody would disagree except possibly Rachel Zoe, but he is the loveliest, the warmest, the most down-to-earth person. He's never changed, he's Canadian, he's a good person. Like, he didn't change. It's not like, this happened and he became, and anything in his personality changed,
Have you run into her at any events? Like, have you ever had any awkward run-ins, or they avoided each other?
I don't remember. I never really followed it, to tell you the truth. I didn't have anything to do with that show when it was on, and so I don't really remember. I don't know.
Would you two ever do a reality show together?
Like we did. Geneva. Well, we did do one. Wait, Brad had a spinoff. It's a Brad
World.
did
have a spinoff. I was thinking that, and I feel like I saw you. Okay. Yes.
So we did. We had a spinoff. He had a spinoff for 2 years, and so we did that. And then we had a reality show, a travel show for HBO Max, where we were traveling the world, but we were doing it during.
Watch that.
Well, no, you can't, because it got canceled. They pulled the plug. It died of COVID. It was one of the. It was one of the cast. We were out filming it during COVID, and COVID started, and we had to stop filming it. And then by the time, I was going to say by the time COVID ended, like if whatever,
ish, right?
Ended ish, the show isn't going forward anymore.
Did you propose on It's a Brad World?
No,
I feel like I saw
didn't propose.
The mob.
No, we did a flash mob of Les Mis. Wasn't a proposal. It was our 10th anniversary.
Oh, was it anniversary? Oh,
people always get, this is like, no, sorry. It's always like, was it your thing? Did you got married on that thing? Was it the thing you did for Brad's birthday? I'm like, no, Justine, it was our 10th anniversary. I did a latest flash mob. It's on YouTube. We already did a show, Geneva.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, blowing it.
It's quite all right. No. So, and if something else,
back to the book. We love your book.
But so we did it. So we also, I've done it. I've dabbled in it. It was a kind of a fun thing to kind of experience.
If Bravo said we're doing the first gay Housewives, you and Brad are our number one, would you do it?
No.
Okay.
No, never. No, I don't fight. I'm also.
I was going to say, like, do you enjoy that kind? It doesn't seem like that's like, again, you're kind of.
No, it would, and you'd go in. So I'd be the person who's like, okay, but I'm not going to fight. I just want you to know, I'll do it. I'll be funny. And they'll be like, yeah, no, just be you. That's what we want. We don't want you to do that. And I'd be like, okay. Cut to, we'd be filming it for 2 weeks. The pressure, we'd be having a dinner party. I'd be like, not the cameras are on us. I'm like, nothing's happening. I'm like, Bob, get the fuck away. I would sleep with somebody else's. I would do anything. I would be like, because I want to win. I'm very competitive. I'd be like, I want to, like you get sucked in. It's like, it's weird. Like I could see just even the short time that I spent doing it, I understand like, how sometimes these women on Housewives start acting out in ways that they might not normally, because they want to, stay relevant is another way to say keep your job. There's all the codes that they have. Do you think
sorry, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Do you think it's easier for like Elisa Rinna to be a housewife since she is an actress? Is she really? Do you feel like the Real House of Beverly Hills is really reality TV, or it's just inherent in her to be slightly an actress?
Yeah, I think being an actor doesn't necessarily, it gives you, what it does is it gives you more comfort in front of the camera. So you're starting off, I think, at an advantage, whereas somebody maybe like Crystal Kong Minkoff needed a few episodes to kind of be like, okay, because it's weird, you know, if you've never done it, it's a weird thing, because people say just act like yourself, but it's like, we kind of can't just act like yourself. The second that camera is in front of you and it's following you for 8 hours and you can hear the cameraman breathing, you know, it's like you're very aware. So, you know, so it does kind of change how you're performing. So you kind of, it's like a volume. You have to kind of modulate, like, okay, I have to find, I need a minute to find this. So maybe actually actors, people more in, who've been in front of the camera have more of an advantage that way. But I do think audiences, you know, I think she's good at being open on camera. And I think so is Teresa Giudice, you know, so they're just doing it in different ways. And I do think that's what the audience kind of responds to, people who you feel like are, you know, like they're just going to be themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we're coming down to our last couple of questions. Do you have an idea for a next book?
No.
Oh, I think you should write about relationships.
There better be another one.
I think your next book should be like relationship advice, or just like
how long it takes to write a book.
I know it takes a long time, but we want another one, so I'm just giving you.
Thank you. That's thank you. I'll take any ideas.
What's your next project or next thing? I know you're still involved in a couple of things. What's coming down the pipeline for you?
You know, right now I'm just focusing on this book and kind of like, you know, going out and kind of like going back out into the world and going on a book tour. So I kind of want to go back out and, you know, and just kind of focus on the book. And then after that, I'm going to kind of like figure out what it is that I want to do. Because when you do something, at least for me, I have to be really passionate about it, because it takes, you know, you give everything. If you're giving everything, you want to do it in service of something that you feel, you know, really excited about, you know? And
especially creatively, I can imagine. Like you have to,
you know, when you're 30, you have a year or two, you can be like, I don't know why, I don't really like this. I wouldn't watch it, but I'm going to do it because it was offered to me. So, all right, why not? You know, I'll do it. I'll have this experience. I'll work with this person or whatever. But now I'm like, like, you know,
have the time.
Yeah, it's like, I want to be really certain that the next thing I do, I'm very excited about it.
And where is the book tour taking you? Do you have the book tour plotted?
I'm going to be on April 25th at the Strand in New York. Then the 26th, I'll be at Dumbo in Brooklyn. Then I'm going to Boston, DC, San Francisco, LA, and it'll all be on my social. The tour will be on my social media, so I'll have it up there. So if anybody wants to come.
Okay. Well, it was, I mean, we can't say enough how much we enjoyed talking to you. It was
I hope
so
we didn't
fun.
insult you with our last, we really blew it at the end.
What are you talking about?
With our non-knowledge at the end.
This has been,
I
told you, I was like, oh, you know who I am. I'm so excited. I never assume anything, you know, never assume anything.
Was seriously a joy.
Everybody read it.
Should buy it. Don't buy it.
Thank you.
Thanks
so much.
Awesome.
Thanks, Justine. Thanks, Geneva. You guys have been an absolute delight. And this has been really the highlight of my day. This was so fun. And thanks so much.
I love it. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your week. And everybody read Gary's book.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
We'll be back. Thank you.